The response to Sarah's message was immediate and comprehensive. Across human space, dormant systems came online with the efficiency of a military operation that had been planned for years but never implemented, because that's exactly what it was. In the Galactic Council chamber, the first sign that something fundamental had changed was the appearance of new contacts on the long-range sensor displays. Ships were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system, but these weren't the careful, announce your presence first vessels that had characterized human space travel for the past 3 years. These were warships, not the retrofitted exploration vessels with token defensive systems that humans had been fielding for diplomatic missions, but purpose-built instruments of war that had been hidden in the outer reaches of human space, waiting for the day when politeness was no longer required. The Etherian delegate's containment field flickered with patterns of pure terror. Ambassador Chen, what is the meaning of this military mobilization? Sarah checked her communicator, reading the stream of updates flowing in from across the galaxy. The reports were exactly what she had expected. Human efficiency applied without the restraints of galactic protocol. The meaning, she said, is that humanity has spent 3 years learning how to be polite. Now you're going to learn what we're like when we're not. She gestured toward the sensor displays where more ships continued to appear. The numbers were staggering. In the 3 years since first contact, the Galactic Council had believed that humanity possessed perhaps 24 interstellar vessels. The sensors were now tracking over 300 ships, and more were arriving every minute. During our integration period, you asked us to limit our shipbuilding activities to peaceful exploration and scientific research. So we did. We built exactly the number of exploration vessels you expected us to build, with exactly the capabilities you expected them to have. The Vorthak representatives' mandibles were clicking so rapidly they created a continuous buzzing sound. This fleet represents a direct violation of the Treaty of Peaceful Expansion. The Galactic Council will not tolerate this aggressive display. Sarah laughed, and the sound made several species flinch visibly. The Treaty of Peaceful Expansion applied to our exploration activities. These aren't exploration vessels. These are the ships we built for war, back when we thought we might need to defend ourselves against hostile aliens. We just never mentioned them because you never asked. More reports flowed across her communicator. Human colonies that had officially requested permission to expand to 2 or 3 additional worlds were simultaneously beginning terraforming operations on dozens of planets. Industrial facilities that had been carefully hidden in asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres were coming online. Their massive production capabilities no longer concealed behind diplomatic fiction. The scale of it was overwhelming. For 3 years, humanity had been pretending to be a small, careful species taking tentative steps into the larger galaxy. In reality, they had been building the infrastructure for rapid expansion on a scale that no other species had ever attempted. The Kepler 442 system that you've been debating for 6 months? Sarah said, checking another update. We're terraforming 12 additional worlds there as we speak. The environmental impact assessments you required? We've already completed them. The Resource Management Bureau applications? Filed and approved by our own systems 30 minutes ago. The Crystalline Collective's representative produced a harmony so complex that the universal translators simply gave up and displayed an error message. The session moderator's tentacles were now writhing in patterns that indicated maximum distress. Ambassador Chen, these actions constitute a fundamental violation of galactic law. The Galactic Council demands immediate cessation of all unauthorized activities. Sarah looked around the chamber one final time, taking in the faces of species that had spent 3 years teaching humanity about the importance of patience, restraint, and proper procedure. Now they were learning what happened when humans decided that patience had expired. Here's what's going to happen, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos of alien languages that filled the chamber. Humanity is withdrawing from all treaties and agreements with the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We appreciate the education you've provided in galactic customs and protocols, but we've decided we prefer doing things our own way. The reports on her communicator were coming in faster now. Human survey teams were beginning systematic exploration of every potentially habitable system within 50 light-years of human space. Industrial vessels were beginning construction of orbital habitats around stars that had never before seen artificial structures. Science ships were beginning experiments that pushed the boundaries of physics with the same reckless determination that had once characterized human warfare. Your 50-year waiting period for expansion requests? We've decided to implement a 50-hour waiting period instead. Your environmental impact assessments? We've streamlined them to approximately 30 minutes per planet. Your Resource Management Bureau? We've dissolved it and replaced it with something more efficient. The Zephyrian delegate managed to overcome its distress enough to speak. The other species of the galaxy will not tolerate this aggressive expansion. There will be consequences for these actions. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. You're probably right. There will be consequences. She gestured toward the sensor displays where the human fleet had grown to over 500 ships, with more arriving continuously. The question is, consequences for whom? The truth was that humanity had spent 3 years learning everything there was to know about the other species in the galaxy. They had studied their technologies, their military capabilities, their industrial capacities, and their psychological profiles. What they had discovered was both enlightening and somewhat disappointing. The Galactic Council's member species had achieved spaceflight through gradual technological development, but they had never been pressed to push their technology beyond comfortable limits. They had built interstellar civilizations, but they had never had to do so quickly or under pressure. They had learned to cooperate and maintain peace, but they had never had to fight for survival against a determined enemy. In short, they had never encountered anything like humanity. The Vorthak hegemony has a total military fleet of 47 vessels spread across 32 systems, Sarah said, reading from her communicator. The Etherian Collective maintains 61 ships for border patrol duties. The Crystalline Collective has 38 vessels dedicated to system defense, and the Mollusk Federation operates 29 ships for law enforcement purposes. She looked up from the device. Combined, the 46 species of the Galactic Council operate approximately 800 military vessels across the entire galaxy. Humanity has just brought 500 warships to this single system. The implications of that statement settled over the chamber like a physical weight. For the first time in galactic history, the representatives of 46 different species found themselves confronting the possibility that they were not the dominant force in their own galaxy. But here's the remarkable thing, Sarah continued. These 500 ships? They're not even our entire fleet. They're just the ones that were close enough to respond to my message quickly. She smiled. And it was the smile of a species that had clawed its way to the top of its food chain through violence, determination, and an absolute refusal to be contained by the limitations others tried to impose. You see, while you were teaching us about the importance of patience and proper procedure, we were learning the most valuable lesson of all. The galaxy is much larger than we originally thought, and there's room for all of us to expand. She paused, letting that statement sink in. The difference is that we're going to expand whether you approve or not. The final reports were coming in now. Across the galaxy, humanity was beginning the largest expansion effort in galactic history. Not the careful, measured expansion that characterized other species, but the explosive, relentless expansion that had driven them from their homeworld to the stars in the first place. The Galactic Council is welcome to continue its important work of maintaining peace and stability among its member species, Sarah said. Humanity will be busy elsewhere. She gathered her materials and prepared to leave the chamber that had been her diplomatic prison for 3 years. Oh, and one final thing, she said, turning back to address the assembled representatives one last time. That politeness you've been interacting with for the past 3 years? That careful restraint and measured cooperation? Don't mistake its absence for hostility. We're not angry with you. We're not seeking revenge or conquest. She smiled one final time. We're just done pretending to be something we're not. The galaxy is about to discover what humanity looks like when we're actually trying. With that, Ambassador Sarah Chen walked out of the Galactic Council chamber, leaving behind 3 years of diplomatic protocol and 46 species who were just beginning to understand the true meaning of the phrase, sleeping giant. Behind her, the representatives sat in stunned silence, watching their sensor displays track the movement of human fleets spreading out across the galaxy like wildfire. They had wanted humanity to prove they could be civilized members of galactic society. They had just learned that civilization, for humans, was simply a choice they made to be polite. And politeness, it turned out, had been optional all along.